websites, you have to go through about 4 pages before you can find that website. It's just a problem. What we've done or what seems to be working for us at this point in time, this is after 7 years of meandering through a variety of different options. In my congregation, pretty much folks have landed on Facebook. Now, I have to be careful with that because I'm in a very ethnically diverse community. And what I'm beginning to hear is that there is some division between sort of in ethnicity between those who prefers Facebook and that remnant who also prefers MySpace. I don't like MySpace. It's not my thing. It's too whatever. But I heard an NPR story this week that basically said that you're beginning to see some racial and ethnic divisions where it primarily ends up being white folk on Facebook and that some of the other ethnic groups are preferring MySpace and that we're coming into some divisions. I think that's something we as a church have to think through. I know I have to think through my community, which is the most ethnically diverse community. What I found from my congregation is that for internal communication, Facebook seems to be working well. And it's not particularly complicated. We have a page. It used to be that you did it as a group. Now you do it as pages. And the only reason I swapped to a page was it just made it a little bit easier for folks to find and get a little bit more flexibility. And yet, folks are communicating. It's a way for us to get information that seems to be working. We also have experimented a little bit with some Facebook advertising, actually purchasing click-through ads on Facebook because it's cheap. And actually had pretty good response for an event. But what we've tended to do is website tends to be more externally focused. Facebook tends to be more internally focused.
Demographic consideration, just a quick question. How many have a strong, say, teen element, say 12 to 21-year-old group? Anybody with large 12 to 21-year-old groups?
Well, this is the Methodist Church.
So for those of you who do, some of the research points this out, as well as the actual practice. These people don't look at emails. So while they may be on Facebook or some other things as well, the majority of their communications are now taking place on mobile. Text messaging is really the one and only way to effectively communicate with this group that we're finding. Taking that into account, if you're designing a strategy, if you want to think about your holistic communications, if you do have those constituents, it's very important to address what are you going to be doing from a mobile standpoint.
Yeah, I'm going to add a couple of, okay. Well, I was just going to say, with what he's saying, I mean, why that's so important, because I get this question so much, is what's better, Facebook or Twitter and all this. It doesn't matter which one I like, it's which one my audience likes. So if my audience is on Facebook, I better be on Facebook. If my audience is on Twitter, I better be on Twitter as well. You know, I personally don't like MySpace at all, but if my audience wanted to connect with me there, you better believe I'd be right there. When I first started on Twitter, I was like, this is the dumbest thing the internet has ever created. But all of my people were emailing me saying, how come we can't follow you on Twitter? So guess what? You know, I had to do it. It's still dumb. Absolutely.
And you're quite amusing, at least for me. To mention, Newsweek just came out with an article. I don't know if you, I bookmarked it on, and it's on my Twitter account, so like twitter.com/GBOD, and it says like social divide of Twitter or Facebook and MySpace. Newsweek just came out of that. It's a pretty good write-up on that piece. As far as text messaging services, I'll tell you, it's like it's an interesting piece of, if you don't know text or SMS technologies. Basically, the group texting is actually email, and so depending on how you set that up, because if you're paying like per phone number, like hey, it's like a nickel per phone number, then that's actually sending an SMS like text from phone to phone kind of setup. But if you're doing the group plans, and they ask you for providers, pay attention to that because it's actually a routing system through the whole email system that gets their phone. This little here that you can change. You had a question? Okay.
You mentioned advertising on Facebook. Is that set up to do regional, local?
Yeah, I mean, it's set up. If you've ever done Google Ads or AdSense, that kind of stuff, it's a similar kind of thing. I mean, you can set it up based off of certain regions. You can set it off on, what we did in this particular event. We had a fixed amount that we could spend be able to say, well, we made this much more money. What I do know is in a bad economy, we still did as well, if not better, than we've done in the past.
What did that package cost?
I think I spent for the whole month, I spent a couple $100 maybe. I think I set my limit at like $5 a day or something like
And I
that.
think while that's important, the average, you probably know this stuff better, but the average Facebook user spends 19 minutes a day on Facebook, and that is like a trillion minutes more than any other website, like ever. So they're clearly, like, when they log into Facebook, they're spending a lot of time there, and they get bored and they're going from friend to friend. So they are paying attention to these ads. Plus, currently, there's a great opportunity because there's less noise there than there is doing Google pay-per-click. So, like, now, this is the time to do it.
I was gonna say too, is if you can tie it into like fan pages, that kind of stuff. It's like I go and the case in point was this little missional Episcopalian church up in Goodlettsville, north of town, signed it, had a Facebook ad, and not only did it's like, hey, St. Francis Church over here, because they keyed in on Goodlettsville, Hendersonville, Gallatin, those kind of areas, but also stuff in my profile, church or ministry, that kind of thing. And then also what it did though was like, hey, this person is a fan of St. Francis Church, just further like closing that loop of connection. And the one thing we were saying as far as like how much you spend, what you get back, Bill Seaver, who's one of our little buddies, is not here, he's on vacation, but would have been here. He kind of presented to us last week at bar camp this idea of it's not so much like the return on investment as a monetary piece, but it's like a return on voice, that you're actively pushing out the investment of your time, but you're also gaining back this and generating this large voice about your church, about your congregation, about the Methodist Church as a whole, about whatever actions it is. That's more important in this time and era than it is necessarily measuring out sometimes the financial what came back sometimes. So, yeah.
Well, another thing for those who are newer to Facebook, you could also create an event, and that's free. And then you just invite all your friends to the event, and then they can forward the invite to their friends. So that can spread pretty quickly too.
It's very effective if you were having even a celebrity at your church of some sort and want to advertise that event, because then the people who are searching on that celebrity will find that same effective curve and will stay seeking. So that's all his people we're anxious to see.
Andy?
I want to voice a question that somebody expressed on Twitter. In the church, we admittedly are frequently slow to adopt and to change and to get on board. One of our folks who's already had to go to the airport raised the question of what are ways that strategies we can use to show skeptics the value of social media. Any ideas on ways to demonstrate the value of social media within the ministry?
I would say the fact that Facebook has millions